all-out conflict with 2 United States Navy carrier groups, 2 against Iran. I will likely never get used to people being so easily bamboozled and falling for obvious lies. Donald Trump campaigned on ending forever wars and foreign conflicts and America first. And here we are on the brink of all-out war with Iran. Possibly this weekend, this is going to take place. And you may ask, how do I know that? How can you make such a bold assertion that this could happen this weekend, or at the very least within the next 10 days or so? It is because of this tweet from the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. On February 27, 2026, the Department of State authorized the departure of non-emergency U.S. government personnel and family members of U.S. government personnel from Mission Israel due to safety risks in response to security incidents. And without advance notice, the U.S. Embassy may further restrict or prohibit U.S. government employees and their family members from traveling to certain areas of Israel, the Old City of Jerusalem and the West Bank. Persons may wish to consider leaving Israel while commercial flights are available. And on the other side of that, obviously, is the fact that commercial flights will soon not be available to anyone traveling outside of Israel. Meaning the protracted, insane, unjustified, unnecessary conflict with Iran is likely to start up. And they believe it will be so full scale that Iran will retaliate, hurling missiles the way of Israel. Donald Trump promised, campaigned. I mean, how many times have you seen promises made, promises kept on memes and campaign literature and posted from Donald Trump's Truth Social account? Is this a promise kept? Look, a lot of people have a difficult time navigating waters that have a conflict in them by nature, that two things can be true at the same time. We can all be against this potential war, this very likely war with Iran, and also hold at the same time the view that the Iranian regime is a problem, is a danger to the world. But what level of danger should be brought into account, should be brought into the conversation? Is it a level of danger that means we need to bomb them, we need to kill, ultimately, untold numbers of civilians? Because the problem with Iran isn't the people. The problem with Iran are the religious clerics who run the country. There should be no religious-oriented theocracies across the country, and that includes Israel. We should not have an ethno-state anywhere in the world, just like we shouldn't have a state set up around a particular religion, Israel or the United States of America. I want to read a little reporting from The Guardian, very important stuff here. I mean, we are on the brink of conflict, the likes of which we haven't seen since the war on terror, since Afghanistan, since Iraq. Donald Trump campaigned on, I was one of the only voices that was against going into Iraq. I didn't want us to have this protracted conflict in Afghanistan. And yet here he is, as a measure to distract from his relationship with a notorious rapist of children, he himself being implicated in those crimes, now endeavors to put us in conflict, sending our men and women in uniform in harm's way as a pawn, as a distraction measure, as a set of jingly keys to distract the American people away from his crimes. This is the headline from The Guardian. U.S. urges its citizens to leave Israel immediately amid strike threat to Iran. Department of State also authorizes non-essential officials and their families to book flights anywhere. Here's the other element of this, and then I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs here, is that the government is now funding the travel of even not high-level people, anybody associated with the embassy, Book a flight. We'll pay for it. Get anywhere. If you can't book a flight straight to the United States, just get out of Israel. Can you get to Italy? Can you get to Germany? Can you get to France? Can you get to anywhere outside of Israel? Do it quickly. Just get out and then book your passage, as it were, to the United States. The U.S. has authorized the departure of non-essential government workers and their families from Israel as the threat of an American strike on Iran looms. U.S. citizens should, quote, consider leaving Israel while commercial flights are available, the Department of State advisory added. It also urged against travel to Israel. The warning came after talks between the U.S. and Iran over the future of Tehran's nuclear program ended inconclusively, with a suggestion that further discussions would be held next week. Donald Trump, the U.S. president, has assembled 2 carrier strike groups ready to attack Iran if he believes Tehran is not serious about ending its nuclear activities. What nuclear activities? After all, the bombing back in June of last year rendered, according to Donald Trump, according to Pete Hegseth, according to the official account of the United States government, completely blown to smithereens. Obliterated 100%. And if you questioned that account, they questioned your patriotism. Yet here we are, but months later, and they're only a week away from developing nuclear weapons, from the grave mistake of enriching nuclear material. They think you are stupid. They think we're all stupid. The problem is we are not MAGA. We understand the lay of the land here. We see the writing on the wall. Pick your metaphor. The Department of State warning was supplemented by a message to U.S. Embassy staff from the ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, urging those that wanted to leave to do so today. He contacted embassy staff in an email sent at 12:04 a.m. local time, urging them to book flights anywhere they could. This move, quote, will likely result in high demand for airline seats today, he wrote. Focus on getting a seat to any place from which you can, then continue travel to D.C. But the first priority will be getting expeditiously out of the country. If this isn't over war and the impending war with Iran, then there's some other serious global interest and conflict that is underway. Donald Trump lied to the American people when he sought their votes for office in 2024. This entire campaign was predicated on the idea that he was the president of peace. We've heard all kinds of surrogates say those very words, lauding him as the peaceman, as the peacemaker. He has wanted the Nobel Peace Prize while throttling us toward all-out conflict with 2 United States Navy carrier groups. 2 against Iran. Not against a massive military power like China, or what we used to think was Russia, and they're the JV now. Iran is not a global power, does not have the kind of military that needs 2 carrier groups. This is overkill. This is distraction from our feckless, 5-time draft-dodging coward and physical weakling of a president of the United States, surrounded himself by also other weaklings and cowards who are willing to do his bidding to distract from the fact that he's been credibly accused of raping children. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation, and it should be a conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. Keep your head on a swivel this weekend. It could come down. I think actually this weekend is probably a little early because they want to give people enough time to get out. But listen, as soon as a sufficient enough a number of Americans are out of harm's way, they're going to pull the trigger on this, and Donald Trump is going to go into full distraction mode.
I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about PIZZAGATE.
Hillary Clinton testified before a House Oversight Committee, a secret, in private, not secret, but in private set of questions for the former First Lady, former United States Senator, and former Secretary of State of these United States. And it turned into the fiasco that you would have expected. It absolutely turned into broken promises, sabotage, lying. And as far as I'm concerned, Hillary Clinton made a big mistake by not pulling the plug as soon as Lauren Boebert sent photos to Benny Johnson, the Russian propaganda agent, the man who was enriched by millions of dollars for spreading Russian propaganda. This has been reported all over the course of the last few months. And he was thick as thieves with Lauren Boebert, who tweeted out pictures. I have 3 clips from this brief press conference out on the steps outside of she appeared remote. Oh, no, they went to Chappaqua, New York is what it was. She didn't appear remotely. They were there. And she gave a press conference kind of talking about the whole thing because members of the House are restricted, supposedly, from giving details about it until the actual full video is released to the public. But I want to cover 3 things here. One is Republicans lying about what the rules would be, breaking their own rules, she addressed it. The other thing is they started asking her questions about UFOs and PIZZAGATE and delving back into the QAnon conspiracy. It just shows Republicans to be absolute bad faith actors here. At the very least, bad faith actors, and at the worst, mired and steeped as true believers of QAnon conspiracy. That's a problem. And then lastly, we're going to talk about her answer to questions at the end of this presser about Bill Clinton's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which I think we should all be concerned about. Let's start with Republicans being liars and rule breakers of their own agreed upon rules for this committee.
Whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. It was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing, so I wouldn't have to be out here characterizing it for you. You could have seen it for yourself. We had asked for that. We think it would have been better for the committee and its efforts to gather whatever information they are seeking. We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule, which was very upsetting because it suggested that they might violate other of our agreements. So we had to cease the hearing for a period of time until we could get assurances that no rules would be broken going forward, and we returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times.
And this is what she's talking about, this tweet here from Lauren, or from Benny Johnson through Lauren Boebert. Full shot of the Clinton Epstein testimony currently ongoing. Real stealthy, Lauren Boebert. Real stealthy, you fucking dum-dum. You take a picture of your name card in the frame. I wonder who took the picture. How will we ever know who took the picture? Oh, fucking morons to be sure. Now, look, this should have been it. As soon as they broke the rules, as soon as they violated their own agreement, she should have walked away. Look, you're not good faith actors. I can't trust any of you to follow through on your own word. You have no honor. You have no integrity. You have no dignity. You have no shame. She should have walked away. She chose not to. I would like to say I think she's the bigger person, the more adult in the room, but I don't know that that's the case. I think that Hillary Clinton, she holds herself to a political order that no longer exists. She's still trying to be the bigger person, the more adult person in the face of these people who are asking her questions about UFOs, about aliens, about conspiracy theories. And that's where this next clip picks up.
It then got, at the end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about PIZZAGATE, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories that was propagated on the internet, that was serving as the basis of a member's questions to me. So I can only say that the best exchange that I had came at the very end when, contrary to every other deposition they have taken, no Republican member asked any questions about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to anyone else they have deposed. And in fact, the Republican members didn't even show up for the deposition of Les Wexner.
Who are these Republicans? Listen, I am eager to watch the video when it's released by the House, by the Oversight Committee, because I want to know who's asking about the PIZZAGATE conspiracy theory. A dangerous, it's not just a belief. Well, yeah, people believe weird things. It's not that. Someone showed up with a weapon of war onto the streets of the United States here in Washington, D.C., up on Wisconsin Avenue, where Comet Ping Pong Pizza is, to infiltrate the basement of this place and save the children from the dungeon of torture in a place that doesn't have a basement. Fired his AR-15, was arrested, and subsequently, I believe, has been killed in another altercation with police. People who are unhinged and driven toward conspiracy theories will be animated to violence based on these conspiracies. And we have members of Congress who are legitimizing and normalizing this path of thought by bringing it up again and asking the former Secretary of State of the United States of America and wife of a former president whether she's involved. And also asking about UFOs and alien, but what in the hell are we doing here? Now, the only line of questioning we're going to find out is probably today when Bill Clinton testifies before the committee here, or I believe also in Chappaqua. And I believe these are questions that we need to know. Apparently, they showed Hillary Clinton photos of Bill Clinton in a hot tub with Jeffrey Epstein. He had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We cannot hold at the same time ire for Donald Trump and contempt for Donald Trump and suspicion of Donald Trump for his long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and not hold it for Bill Clinton, who has proven himself through his own personal behavior and professional behavior as a skeevy fuck, as someone who violated the trust of activists in his presence, of donors in his presence, of employees. It wasn't just, oh yeah, he had an affair. No, it's not. There's a power dynamic here. I'm not going to relitigate all of this, but here's the clip where Hillary Clinton is asked specifically about Bill Clinton and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And her answer, no surprise to you, to me, leaves a lot to be desired.
Madam Secretary, you spoke in your opening remarks about how heartbroken you have been for the Epstein survivors as these files have come out. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you have processed and reacted to the fact that the former president, your husband, Bill Clinton, is referenced in the Epstein files numerous times, including in some photos featuring women, and how have you been personally preparing for the deposition that is coming tomorrow? Are you 100% confident that there isn't anything that the former president knows about Epstein's crimes?
I am, and I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light, and that he was charged and sadly given a sweetheart deal, which, as I said in my statement, had that not happened, perhaps his predatory behavior could have been stopped earlier. But I think it is fair to say that the vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal pleas in 2008 were like most people. They did not know what he was doing. And I think that that is exactly what my husband will testify to tomorrow.
Look, the reason this rings hollow to me is because every person who's talked about their interactions and initial meetings with Jeffrey Epstein has even drawn Donald Trump people. Remember when Howard Lutnick said, oh, he's just gross. You just get a real bad vibe from the guy. I never wanted to hang around him again. We find out that was a lie, that he absolutely did want to hang out with him again. Went to the island. There's photographs of Howard Lutnick now palling around with the child rapist on the rapist island. But everybody, Bill Gates' wife, Melinda Gates, said, the first time I met him, it was like palpable evil. It was gross. He was disgusting. He was a creep. Everybody says this. So for Bill Clinton to act like, oh, no, I had no idea. I stopped hanging around him once I found out about the conviction or whatever. It doesn't ring with reality. If you know someone who is a creeper and a rapist and a disgusting person like Jeffrey Epstein, you get a sense of it. We all live in the same world. We all deal with people on a daily basis. Either Bill Clinton is so stupid he doesn't have the people skills to understand the character of Jeffrey Epstein, which we all know is not the case. We know Bill Clinton is a people person. Look, I've only met Bill Clinton one time back in the 90s when I worked on Capitol Hill. And even then, I recognized this guy knows people. This guy is a magnetic type of person. And you don't get to be that kind of a successful politician without understanding people. Now, I'm beating a dead horse here. I would love your opinion on how I'm wrong. I'm sure there's a lot of people who still greatly admire Bill Clinton and deny the things that I'm saying and the beliefs that I hold. I'd love for you to change my mind about it. But to me, it just doesn't hold up. I hope Bill Clinton absolutely is held accountable. This Congress isn't the Congress to do it. The Republicans aren't the group to do it. If they can't hold Donald Trump accountable, who has credible accusations of horrible crimes against little girls, they're not going to be able to hold Bill Clinton accountable for his potential crimes, or at least his association. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. Tell me where I'm wrong. I'm welcome to dissent. I am absolutely okay with it. Reasonable people can disagree about things of great import. And I think we can do it here too. Comment below or call the voicemail line and you can scream at me about how wrong I am there. 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. And Donald Trump is going to try to circumvent this, get around this by declaring a national emergency. Well, it looks like Donald Trump has named his election rigging team going into the midterms, and it's not good. I have some reporting here from ABC News. Washington Post did a whole thing about this, how Donald Trump is now endeavoring to sign an executive order federalizing national elections to interfere in the midterms. He wants to send his armed mass secret police force to election polling centers. We already know this. This is being floated. And they're using China interference in the election. China's interference. There's no evidence of this. No evidence of this. You're not, if this was if this is true, what you're getting ready to start hearing all the time in the coming weeks, this is the problem. Let me lay this out for you real quick before I read this headline. If this is true, they would have been screaming about it since 2020. All through 2021, all through 2022. It would have been on the tip of Donald Trump's tongue constantly and forever if China did something. But you haven't heard anything about this. And in the coming months, that's all you're going to hear about is China, 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 China did this, China did this. They'll have no evidence. They've not even mentioned it up until now. But it's going to be the predicate for an executive order to interfere in the upcoming elections. Mark my words. Mark my words. Mark this on your calendar, this February 27th. It's 12:01 p.m. right now as I'm recording this. I should, again, get my whiteboard for my predictions, because this is what's going to happen. And it should ring hollow to you and every American that, why are we just hearing about this if it's such a big deal, if it was such a big threat to an election 6 years ago? Here's the headline from ABC News. Pro-Trump attorneys push executive order that would give Trump sweeping power over elections. Sources. The emergency order would mandate the use of voter ID and hand-counted ballots. We live in a technological society. We live in a technological society where safeguards can be ensured that when you cast a ballot in a voting machine, it's safe. And the reason I know that is because we do not have fraud in our elections. In fact, when a voter fraud, there's a difference between election fraud and voter fraud. When voter fraud takes place, invariably, almost every single time, it's at the hands of a Republican who has been whipped into a frenzy of paranoia about their vote being stolen, so they try to counteract that by voting multiple times, or voting illegally, or voting for someone with someone else's absentee ballot. That's how we know. Now, the people that Donald Trump has named to help him in this endeavor are some of the worst of the worst. Mike Lindell, the MyPillow goof. Michael Flynn, the disgraced former general who Donald Trump had to fire or who had to quit after lying to the FBI about his contact with Russia at the very beginning of Donald Trump's first term. These people, someone who's advocated for a Myanmar-style coup here in the United States, Michael Flynn. And now they're going to try to make this go national to interfere in our elections. A group of pro-Trump attorneys and supporters is circulating a draft of a presidential executive order that uses alleged Chinese interference in the 2020 election, of which there is no evidence, to justify a national emergency declaration that they claim would give President Donald Trump sweeping power over voting, multiple sources told ABC News. The 17-page draft order, which sources say Trump has reviewed, would mandate the use of voter ID and hand-counted ballots and ban mail-in ballots ahead of the upcoming elections. Now, how they're going to try to do this, because Donald Trump, under the authority of the Constitution, under the rules outlined by the Constitution, under the guideline, under the mandates, under the demands, not suggestions of the Constitution, Donald Trump, as a federal officer, has no authority over state-run elections. In fact, the 10th Amendment people should be banging their drums right now, sounding the alarm, because they are taking away states' rights from them, articulated, clearly and plainly articulated rights under the Constitution, giving individual states the authority to operate their elections. And Donald Trump is going to try to circumvent this, get around this, interfere with this, violate the Constitution by declaring a national emergency, which he does with everything. His unconstitutional tariffs that the Supreme Court just struck down were based on a national emergency. He's declaring a national emergency about everything and trying to get around the rules, the law, the Constitution. The attorneys pushing the draft order said they anticipate it would be incorporated into a planned executive order, which they expect to be issued soon. It is not clear if Trump is considering or will ultimately issue the order. It's not, ABC News, it's not clear. Well, it's just not clear whether he's considering the executive order. Again, giving Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt when none is necessary for him. That line just could have been left out of the article altogether. It didn't need to be there. They're, again, softening the blow and trying to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. When are we going to learn here, folks? Quote, at this point, it's got to be ASAP because we got primaries, said Florida attorney Peter Tickton, who told ABC News on Thursday that he has been in contact with the White House about the draft order. Well, if he's been in contact with the White House about the draft order, why the sentence about if you don't know if Donald Trump is considering it? Obviously, Donald Trump, he knows about it. He's considering it, whether that be considering to do it or considering not to do it. It's consideration, ABC News. Tickton, who also represents former Colorado County Clerk Tina Peters, who was imprisoned for breaking into voting equipment, said the emergency declaration would empower Trump to ban electronic voting machines and mail-in ballots because they could be tools used for foreign interference. Quote, the most important provision, if you ask me, is the hand counting, Tickton said. Get rid of the machines. That's what we need to do right away. When asked about Article 1 of the Constitution assigning power to regulate elections to state legislatures and Congress, Tickton acknowledged state legislatures' authority, but said the claims of foreign election interference justify action. But he didn't explain how the Constitution would allow that. Just, we just got to do something about fraud that doesn't exist. We need to have our solution find its problem, and then give Donald Trump wide berth of powers he does not have. Quote, the Constitution basically, he says, that's a good one, right? When a lawyer who has all the facts and all the understanding, has done all the research, when they use wiggle words like that. The Constitution basically gives the power to the state legislatures, not the governors, not any judges, not anything in the federal government, but just the state legislatures, the power to determine how that state is going to conduct its elections. So the president doesn't have any power to change that. But we really do have an election emergency right now, he said. The Constitution basically gives the states the power to do it, but Donald Trump needs to do something right now. Yeah, we see you anti-democratic ghoul. Sources said that President Trump has reviewed versions of the draft order and has had discussions with those involved with the effort. Wait a minute. How does this paragraph come merely a few paragraphs after ABC News saying that you're not sure whether it's unclear that Donald Trump is considering it? The sources said President Trump has reviewed versions of the draft order. Just by virtue of that, he's considering whether to say yes again or whether to say no. Get your shit together, ABC News. Sources said President Trump has reviewed versions of the draft order and has had discussions with those involved with the effort. Tickton told ABC News that during the drafting of the order, he has been in contact with a number of MAGA figures, including Michael Flynn, MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, and Patrick Byrne, all who played roles in the aftermath of the 2020 election and worked to attempt to overturn the results. And of course, Donald Trump is here for this. Donald Trump is not an ancillary outside character, not a figure of some, people are just bringing things to me. Donald Trump is in the organization stages of this with these people who want to end democracy in the United States of America. And they're going to the chief insurrectionist, Donald Trump, to get it done because it suits him. It benefits him and the Republican Party if they can kick millions of people off the voter rolls, if they can diminish the reliability of our elections through no mail-in ballots, no voter machines. You know how long it would take for people to get through voting lines? They know what they're doing. They're creating chaos to try to discourage people from voting. That's exactly what they're doing. And if they have possession of and control of the ballots, these ne'er-do-wells will absolutely attempt to cheat. They will try to steal an election, rig an election for Donald Trump and the Republicans in 2026 and whoever the nominee is in 2028. That is what they're trying to do. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. If you're feeling like it, if you're on social media, not on the Nazi Twitter, I'm not there, but everywhere else, you can follow me on social media, Threads and Blue Sky and Instagram. I'm not on TikTok anymore either because of their nonsense. Well, it's just a dwindling list of social media platforms that I'm on. I'm on Facebook, Dollemore Daily's there too. Why are you besmirching the good name and honor and reputation of the Department of Homeland Security? Well, it's because we have video of it. Listen, when I say that you cannot trust anything this government says, I mean it. from the Department of Homeland Security, obviously what we're going to be talking about today, but the Health and Human Services Department. There isn't an agency in this government that is reliable or trustworthy. And we're going to talk about the DHS because it is a breakneck pace of white supremacist lies coming out of this administration. They murder citizens and then boldly lie about what took place that justified the killing of Renee Good, Alex Preddy. Remember the case that we've talked about the two guys who brutally beat with a shovel and a broom handle agents of the federal government that turned out to be a complete lie. They got called out in court. In fact, now there might be perjury charges against those particular ICE agents who lied like that. Tom Homan can't even justify it. Greg Bovino can't be found justifying their lies. That's how many lies and the frequency and intensity of the lies from this department. Now, I talked yesterday about a story about a blind refugee who was left in the cold and died from a border patrol. And the DHS put out a tweet saying, oh, this is totally a lie. Here are the facts. This is the real story behind it. And now we're finding out there's video of the man. And the coffee shop that they dropped him off at to be warm and safe and secure was closed. But first, let's start with this tweet from the Department of Homeland Security. This one right here. Here are the facts. On February 19th, 2026, Buffalo Police Department alerted Border Patrol about a non-citizen in their custody. Our agents confirmed that Mr. Shah Alam entered the United States as a refugee on December 24th, 2024, and was not amenable to removal. Border Patrol agents, here's the lie. Well, I mean, everything else is a lie too, but we'll deal with the big lie here. Border Patrol agents offered him a courtesy ride. You know, the humanitarian Border Patrol, they just offered this blind man a courtesy ride. Thank you, DHS. Thank you, Border Patrol. You're such patriots and kind-hearted humanists. Border Patrol agents offered him a courtesy ride, which he chose to accept, to a coffee shop, determined to be a warm, safe location near his last known address rather than be released directly from the Border Patrol station. He showed no signs of distress, mobility issues, or disabilities requiring special assistance. Well, that man died in the cold on the streets of Buffalo, blind, unable to find his way home because the Border Patrol just dropped him off outside of a darkened door, closed coffee shop in the middle of a blizzard. And if you think, oh, this is just bombastic Democrat talking points, this is a lie, this is a conspiracy, why are you besmirching the good name and honor and reputation of the Department of Homeland Security? Well, it's because we have video of it. Because their lie didn't include an understanding or knowledge that there's a video, so they just freely lied because, well, it's our word against the government's. It's activist word against the United States. It's this man's family's word against the Border Patrol. Here's a tweet from Investigative Reports reporter J. Dale Shoemaker. Breaking, we've obtained video of Border Patrol abandoning Nurul Shah Alam, the Buffalo refugee. Border Patrol claimed the shop was open. The doors, however, were locked. Agents never notified family or lawyers. Shah Alam died 5 days later. How many deaths are we going to have to witness and suffer through at the hands of the Department of Homeland Security? How can we feel secure under the auspices of the DHS when they are executing citizens in the street, when they are kidnapping 5-year-old children after school, and when they are giving courtesy rides to blind, disabled refugees, leaving them to die in the snow? Here is the video that was shared by J. Dale Shoemaker from Investigative Reports. It is a remarkable thing where we find ourselves today. This should be bigger news. This should absolutely be the top story on every major network. Instead, what we're having to do is rely on local news like the Buffalo News station, which I talked about yesterday, Channel 4 in Buffalo, really covering this. We have a government that cannot be trusted in any way. But what would you expect when it's a government led by a historic liar in Donald Trump, a criminal, a convicted felon president who endeavored to overthrow the United States government in 2021? He tried to overturn a free and fair election. He is, by his nature, it is at his core, he is a liar, a disgusting liar, an enemy of the Constitution, an enemy of the United States and Americans. He's looking out for himself to make himself as rich as possible while trying to distract from his crimes against children, his association, his best friendship of over 15 years with a notorious, maybe the most notorious child trafficker in the history of the world. And Republicans are beating a drum about somebody who's been mentioned once or twice, or, oh, this is outrageous, but ignoring Donald Trump. Beating a drum of war after having campaigned as the president of peace, naming the U.S. Institute of Peace after himself, demanding peace prizes, getting his soccer peace prize. It's the worst possible timeline. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. Where am I wrong? What am I missing about whether or not we can believe the accounts of the federal government? For a long time, look, I'm going to end it here, but for a long time, up until about the 2007 when the iPhone was released and everybody had a camera in their pocket, people just believed hook, line, and sinker the accounts of police. Even this man, this late refugee, this dead refugee, was abused by the Buffalo Police Department before he was killed by Border Patrol. We need to be more skeptical of what the government tells us, what especially police-related government agencies tell us, because it is in their best interest to cover for their violations of the United States Constitution. They're violations of our Fourth Amendment rights, our Fifth Amendment rights, our Sixth Amendment rights, our 14th Amendment rights. Be better. Do not believe. At the very least, test the story and walk into it with some modicum of distrust. Trust but verify. You know what Reagan said? Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. You can also call the voicemail line as I rapidly get through this, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. If you want to help support this work, I invite you to do so. You can click the join button below on YouTube to become a channel member for $2 a month, or even better, you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt and help support the work that way. We also have a website that sells t-shirts and mugs and stickers and all kinds of other little tchotchke items that you can get something in return other than a warm, fuzzy feeling that you're helping support this work. Go to Dollemore.com and check all that out. I would appreciate it very much.
First of all, I don't think Chairman Comer is very smart. I just do not think he has a strategy whatsoever. I don't think he has a plan. I think they wanted to make this big show of Hillary Clinton with no real idea of how they would take it forward.
While Republicans are making a joke and a circus out of the House Oversight Committee, there are Democrats on that committee, members of that committee, that are doing strong work. One is the vice chairman, the ranking member of the committee, Robert Garcia from California, who I'm going to play a clip of here, who is really, we need to win the midterms because we need to be pressing Donald Trump for his testimony as well. They're out there, I think, justifiably calling in Bill Clinton to testify. But if we're out here interviewing presidents, why not have Donald Trump as well? The executive privilege would have nothing to do with it. Maintaining national security posture would have nothing to do with his testimony, because after all, this happened decades and decades ago, right? He can't say it's all executive privilege. Jeffrey Epstein was not an advisor. Executive privilege would not cover that. And Robert Garcia right now is the tip of the spear to get Donald Trump to testify. And he talked about this yesterday on the news. And I want to share this one with you. Then we're going to go to Yasmina Ansari, a congresswoman from Arizona, somebody I'm a big fan of. I've talked to her a couple of different times. Met her twice, talked to her once with David Pakman last summer. I believe it was last summer. Everything runs together so much. I believe it was last summer. But she's the real deal. Look, you could sit across from a politician and know this person's giving me a politician answer. It's very clear. She's the real deal. But first, let's start with Robert Garcia about getting Donald Trump to testify before the Oversight Committee about his relationship and possible crimes with Jeffrey Epstein.
Who was asking about the UFO and PIZZAGate? Can you tell me which of your colleagues?
We're going to allow the video to come out pretty soon, hopefully, with all of that, without getting specific about the actual deposition. But we had multiple members ask questions, the most odd questions about UFOs, about PIZZAGate, that had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. One thing Secretary Clinton was very clear about, and she talked about this in her opening comments, is she also believes that Donald Trump should also be transparent. I said this today, and I'll continue to say it. They have set, Republicans, a new precedent in hearing from former or current presidents. And so we've now asked and been very clear that President Trump should now appear before our committee and answer our questions for as long as Secretary Clinton and Bill Clinton will tomorrow. He needs to answer questions immediately in front of the committee, and we're not sure why he continues to be protected by the House majority.
Obviously, he's being a little cute there about we're not sure why he continues to be protected by the House majority. Of course, Robert Garcia, Congressman Garcia, knows full well why Donald Trump is being protected by the House majority, because they are cult members. They will do anything for the dear leader, up to and including protect him from horrific crimes that he has been credibly accused of. There are multiple FBI interviews that they are deleting from the public record after having released them. There are photos of Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, that they have deleted from the public record. The records that they are required by law, a law signed by Donald Trump and passed in great majority by Republicans themselves, that he is violating. We do need Donald Trump to testify before the committee. We do need to know what the extent of his relationship was with Jeffrey Epstein, what he knew and when he knew it, what he did, what crimes he potentially committed against the most vulnerable Americans, the most innocent Americans, the Americans that should be protected the most and with the most fervent effort. Now, I trust that Robert Garcia is going to be doing the right thing. I think he's a solid leader. I think that he has a mind for strategy and communication. It's a great mingling of all of these traits we need in a solid leader are possessed by Congressman Garcia. I think someone on the rise who may also possess all of these talents and abilities is Yasmina Ansari from Arizona. She was on MS Now yesterday and said some things that are very appropriate for the moment, but also spoke very plainly about whether she has confidence in James Comer. And I like that what she won. I'll just spoiler alert. She says he's a dumb guy. I think she says he's not very smart. It brings me joy, not because it's calling James Comer stupid, because he's stupid for sure. He's a dumb shit, to be sure. But it is abandoning the old political order about how we deal with one another in politics. That we have to deal with these white supremacists and these liars and these chaos agents as though this is normal, as though they are regular partners in governance. That old political order where my good friend across the aisle, that has been dead for years and years and years. Before Donald Trump, that era of American politics was over. And this is why we need a new and younger generation to take the helm of politics in America so we can jettison that. We can just pound sand. We don't need any more time with Joe Biden calling Kevin McCarthy honorable or honest and calling Mitch McConnell honorable. We don't need that anymore. We can deal with reality on reality's terms. We can treat these people like the adults they are and hold them accountable for their behavior and their words and their actions and their beliefs. Here's Yasmin Ansari calling it like it is and calling James Comer a dumb shit.
There is one connection to Epstein here. There was an email in the Epstein files showing that Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick invited Jeffrey Epstein to a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. Either of you, your sense of why it has taken Chairman Comer this long to decide whether to subpoena Lutnick?
First of all, I don't think Chairman Comer is very smart. I just do not think he has a strategy whatsoever. I don't think he has a plan. I think they wanted to make this big show of Hillary Clinton with no real idea of how they would take it forward. They have been reluctant about all of the subpoenas that have anything to do with this administration or even with the financial institutions. So I think until they only act when we continue to call for it, when there's so much public pressure that there's absolutely no way to back out of it. I mean, the subpoena that came out of the Oversight Committee to begin with, I think only really happened because there was so much public pressure and it just looked so, it would have been so damning for none of them to have voted for it. So, I mean, he said he made some vague commitment today, but it will
it's
take
on his
more
list
pushing.
or he's thinking about it or maybe it will happen. I mean,
Thinking about a lot of things.
Yeah, he talks about the Trump administration officials that have come before the committee. Mm-hmm. What he doesn't say is the two of them, Bill Barr and Alex Acosta, are from Trump's first term and had falling out with Trump, right? So they're no longer in Trump's good graces. So it was easy for Comer to bring them in. The challenge, the question of courage for Chairman Comer is he willing to bring in someone like Howard Lutnick, who is still in the good graces of Donald Trump, who operates under the protection of Donald Trump, and will Chairman Comer incur the wrath of Donald Trump in doing that?
Now, look, all due respect to Congressman Walkinshaw, he's a good guy. Did you notice his maybe rewind. Did you notice his level of uncomfortability when Congresswoman Ansari called James Comer not very smart? I don't think Chairman Comer is very smart. He was palpably uncomfortable. It seemed to me, you can tell me if I'm wrong or right, or whether you believe I am. That is a mild adherence to the old political order thing I'm talking about. She's not abiding by that, nor should she. James Comer is what he is. Are we going to call him smart when he is clearly not a smart man? Are we going to call him loyal to the United States when he is clearly not loyal to the United States? Are we going to call him anything other than a distraction agent and a chaos agent for Donald Trump when that is what he is? It is not honest to the American people, and it's not honest to ourselves. This is why we need to get rid of the old way of thinking and acting relative to these fascists, these white supremacists, these liars who are covering for Donald Trump, and the very real chance that he committed heinous crimes against children. At the very least, even if I'm wrong about that, and I don't believe I am, but even if I'm wrong about that, he has covering up for the crimes of others who are co-conspirators of the late Jeffrey Epstein, the thankfully dead as fuck Jeffrey Epstein. Too much? Tell me in the comments. You can comment below, whether that be on Facebook or YouTube. If you're on Facebook, like and follow the Dollemore Daily there. Subscribe on YouTube. Those things are free. I appreciate it very much. It's also free to comment. It's also free to leave a voicemail. 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. What I need to do is get Congresswoman Ansari back on the show and talk to her about her experiences on the Oversight Committee.
A white Dodge Durango drives up next to them.
It hit everyone. I mean, it was clear across.
Here's that moment again.
What do you know? What do you know? More lies from ICE. More lies from ICE about them endangering women and children. It didn't rise to the level in this case. Luckily, it didn't rise to the level of an execution of an American citizen like Alex Preddy or Renee Good. It didn't rise to the level of killing a blind, disabled refugee like they did in Buffalo. This, though, is getting the attention of local media. This is in Columbus, the NBC affiliate, Channel 4, of a mother and her 3 children driving in their car and having an ICE agent inundate them, spray them with pepper spray into a moving vehicle. Now listen, if you've never, I'm going to get to this clip from the Columbus NBC affiliate, but if you've been in the military and you've ever gone through CS gas training where you have to don and you throw on your mask, you don and you clear all the gas that's in the gas mask and then you can breathe relatively easily. If you've ever experienced gas, pepper spray, CS gas, anything like this, you know how caustic it is. You know how difficult it is to breathe. When Brittany Page and I went to Minneapolis in the wake of the killing of Renee Good, we were protesting outside of the Whipple Federal Building, and they were hitting their pepper balls all over the ground to make a plume of pepper spray. And it was the first time Brittany Page has ever had any interaction with pepper spray and how choking it is. And if you're driving a vehicle with your small children and the inside of your vehicle, the cab of your vehicle is completely a cloud of pepper spray, you're going to choke. You could pass out. You very easily could wreck into an oncoming vehicle, injuring the inhabitants of your vehicle, the passengers of your vehicle, and the other vehicle. This is just endangering American citizens at the hands of ICE, who, shocker, lied about what took place. But now we have video of it, and it proves that they lied. Again, you cannot trust this administration when they say anything. They are not just agents of Donald Trump. They are agents of death and destruction and harm to American citizens. Watch this report from the NBC affiliate, Channel 4, in Columbus, Ohio.
Across the country, meanwhile, there have been many questions surrounding the policing of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement agents. Concerns have come up in cities stretching from Los Angeles to Minneapolis.
And now questions are being raised here in Columbus. Caught on camera, ICE agents deploying pepper spray into a car with a mother and 3 children inside, all U.S. citizens. Now, when we reached out to ICE to ask why, their answer did not match up with the video we obtained of the incident. NBC4 Investigates is digging into this story, and investigative reporter Isabel Cleary joins us right now with what each side is saying about this. Isabel?
Jared, Jen, a Columbus mother with 3 children in the car, all U.S. citizens, ages 18, 15, and 11, were out shopping. But that trip ended with a 911 call. She says ICE agents sprayed pepper spray into their car. The mother is calling it assault, while ICE says a group was blocking the agents who used the spray to clear a path.
We just got mostly ice.
Our eyes were burning and I had crying kids and one of those just, you're helpless.
A video obtained by NBC4 Investigates shows the moments just before and during the incident in late December near Easton Mall. The daughter of the woman driving yelled out her window, warning others about ICE agents nearby. Then a white Dodge Durango drives up next to them.
It hit everyone. I mean, it was clear across. I have pictures of inside the vehicle. It's everywhere.
Here's that moment again.
They didn't have their lights on or anything until after they pepper sprayed us to get out of traffic.
The Durango then turned on its police lights and drove away. The mom who was pepper sprayed asked us not to show her face or name out of fear of being targeted.
Did you hear that? Fear of being targeted. She wants to remain anonymous because she fears the Department of Homeland Security will have some measure of retribution against her, revenge against her for exercising her free speech and telling the truth about what took place. And they lie, and they lie, and they lie about what took place. The people who were there, the people who pulled the trigger on the pepper spray, on the bear spray into the cab of a car with a mom and kids, they know what took place. They were there when it happened, and they lie about it. It doesn't get any better. Watch the rest of this report.
NBC4 Investigates obtained the body camera footage of the Columbus police officer who responded to the family's 911 call. They drove to a nearby fire station for help.
We were going to Walmart on East End and we saw that ice was there, like a Dollar Tree, like around the car. So we decided what to go around. They pulled out, so I pulled out too to see where they were going.
He didn't make any threatening gestures or attempt to go towards their vehicle in a front.
NBC4 Investigates reached out to ICE, sharing the Durango's license plate number, the location of the incident, and an image of the agent deploying the spray. The agency sent a statement saying in part, on December 21st, anti-ICE agitators targeted, followed, and verbally harassed off-duty ICE officers at a retail store. When officers tried to de-escalate and leave the store, the agitators followed the officers, blocking their means of egress. ICE officers deployed OC spray to disperse the group and clear their path to leave the scene. Here's that video again. The mother's car, at the time in front of the agents, not inside of a store. It doesn't appear they're blocking a path.
The way that my client was seated, she was not threatening anybody. She didn't have a weapon in her hand. She was merely just trying to warn other people that there were ICE agents in the area because it's something that she's very in touch with.
ICE said this was the same incident as the one they mentioned in their statement. Columbus police closed the investigation, saying that it would be difficult for the division to advance the case further based on what was known at the time. In a statement to NBC4 Investigates, CPD said, "We are reviewing the entirety of the incident to ensure policies were followed." The mother's lawyer is asking for police to reopen the case and for the Department of Homeland Security to investigate.
It's important that both law enforcement agencies are aware of what is going on in this city.
I just want them held accountable. I want them disciplined. It's assault on minors for just yelling out your window.
I emailed ICE multiple times asking to speak about this incident to clarify if these agents deployed pepper spray twice that day. They did not answer that question. Every use of force incident is required to be reported and reviewed. I have requested use of force reports from the day of this incident, and we will share those as soon as we get them.
So not only are there questions about the integrity of the Department of Homeland Security and ICE and Border Patrol and all of these Nazi fucks, there's also questions about the reliability of the Columbus Police Department. Oh, it's going to be too difficult to secure the outside students. You're making our jobs very hard. We can't find any information to protect you, to serve and protect, which I'm sure is on the outside of their police cars. You cannot trust this government. Again, from the Health and Human Services, from the EPA, to the FDA, to Homeland Security, to the President of the United States himself, you cannot trust them. They are liars, they are deceivers, and they are doing it to advance the agenda of white supremacy, attempting to create a white ethno-state, approaching black and brown people as they're getting gas, asking them for their papers. Where were you born? Justify your existence here. There's no presumption of innocence. It's a trampling of the Constitution of the United States as they lie and lie and lie, even in sworn court testimony. They are liars, and they know they're protected by a man who has the power to pardon them. This is why the midterms are more important right now in this election than they have ever been, because the stakes are whether we're going to impeach, convict, and remove Donald Trump, or even have a shot at it. We're not going to have a shot at it if Democrats are not in office, whether that be the House and the Senate or just the House. The main objective that we should have is to stop the fascist, white supremacist agenda of Donald Trump. And if we cannot stop it wholesale, we need to delay it, slow it, gum up the works for the rest of his administration so fewer people die in the streets. Fewer people are kidnapped off the streets of America. Stop or slow the damage that Donald Trump is doing. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. You can also call the voicemail line, as always, 714-576-4054, and email daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. Hope you're having a great Friday. Hope you had a great Friday. And maybe I'll see you this weekend. Be genuine. Take care of one another.